Hello, and welcome back to Tuesdays with Dr. Susan. We are continuing in our executive function discussion this week, talking about planning and prioritization. I'm hoping that Susan has a lot of great tips because I'm terrible at this one. So I'm going to go ahead and run the intro and then bring Susan on and we will get started. If I can find the button. There we go.
Hi, I'm Nicole, and as you have probably guessed, I have ADHD. I live and breathe all things ADHD in my personal, family, and professional life. I have a background in psychology and special education, and I've gained a lot of knowledge over the years about ADHD, what it really is, how it touches every aspect of your life and the life of your child, as well as a wealth of information and strategies for living with ADHD and parenting kids with ADHD. In this community, we share stories, we learn together, and we support each other as we navigate all things ADHD. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, friend. How are you doing today?
Excited to talk about our great topic.
Excellent. Do you want to introduce yourself just a little bit for anyone who might be new?
I'm Dr. Susan Blumberg. I'm a parent, teen, and young adult life coach. I specialize in working with families who need help with communication, organization planning issues, and launching into the next stage of your life, whether that's high school, college, or into adulthood. I'm also the parent of two twice exceptional young adults. Twice exceptional meaning you're both gifted in some area and carry one or more disability labels. I'm a parent to two twice exceptional children, and Nicole is parent to three twice exceptional children. So we cover the range in this area.
A lot of life experience to share.
I was a special education advocate for 40 years, recently retired from doing that in order to focus on helping families ready to move on in their life skills.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. As always, it's great to have you here and keeping me on a schedule because I'm bad at that.
ADHD is, one of those things. But I also appreciate the opportunity to talk about these great topics with you.
Yes. So let's go ahead and jump into planning and prioritization. And I guess my first question for us to talk about is why are those two things usually lumped together when we're talking about executive functions?
I think it's a great question. And so I'm going to ask you a question. Do you keep a to-do list?
Yes.
Many. And how effective is that at helping you?
Depends on the day.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you not to keep a to-do list anymore. Okay. And instead, I'm going to tell you to keep a priority list. So let's talk about the difference between a to-do list and a priority list. And then the planning piece is going to become more clear. So a to-do list is usually like your junk drawer in your kitchen. You throw everything on it that needs to be done. It's usually not set by time limits or timelines. There's no planning in it. Oh, what should be done first or second? What has to be done today versus later in the week? It is a junk drawer of everything you know that has to be done, not in any particular order, just when you thought of it. Am I describing your to-do list?
Yes and no.
Talk about it.
So I have usually a dump book.
I like that.
So the dump book becomes that. It's the junk drawer. It's just everything that pops into my head when it pops in my head. I put it down on the paper so that it doesn't keep bouncing around inside my brain and that I remember the thing. It goes on the dump book. And then I take from the dump book and make a daily to-do list. So I guess that's my prioritization list, right?
You are a step ahead of most people, Nicole. Good job. Now, how many items go on your daily list?
Oh, that doesn't have a set number.
And so how many typically does it contain?
Too many.
Okay. So I'm going to limit you to 3. And the reason is a priority list should have no more than 3 items because generally speaking, we don't get more than 3 items done. So prioritization has to do with what do I need to get done in the next 24 hours and how likely am I to get them done? Now, obviously, there has to be some give and take. There are some days when we have more significant things to get done. And I'm not talking about your appointments, things on your calendar that you have to attend. You know, I might have 5 client appointments, my podcast with you on Tuesdays, a lecture I'm supposed to attend. Those aren't on my priority list. My priority list might include getting my social media posted, scheduling a sales call with a potential client, things that I have to catch up on to keep my business running. Those things go on my priority list. But one of my priority items might also be a personal item. I need to take care of something for my family. Right now, we're in a family situation where my 25-year-old son and his partner just took on fostering 2 babies. And so I have some priority items to help support them. And I'm putting aside some business items to be able to support my adult children who ended up in a court-ordered fostering situation to help out my daughter-in-law's family. So I'm rearranging my priorities in order to be able to support my family. And so my top 3 priorities have shifted from all business related to family related. So the point being that more than 3 priority items are generally not going to get done in a given day. So you might have a daily priority list. You might have a weekly priority list. But more than 3 items are not likely to get done in a day.
So I guess my question would be, is it more of a category list then? So I need to, work for this amount of time, and these are the things that I need to get done with work, because there's going to be more than 3 things on that list.
But you're not likely to get more than 3 things done in a day. Let's be realistic. Your appointments don't go on your priority list, right? So you have your daily work schedule, but priority items are items that you do in addition to your scheduled appointments. So seeing your clients is not a priority list item. That's your work schedule. But your priority items, just talking for us, and then I'll talk about parents, might be, for me, it's getting my social media done, or it's making sales calls, or it's reaching out to doing the admin on my volunteer parent support group. Those are priority items. I have to take care of those.
Okay.
Right?
So I guess maybe if I'm looking at this.
3. Go ahead.
Well, because okay, for those of us like me who work is more flexible, right? I don't have necessarily, and this is something that I eventually am working towards having more of a fixed work schedule, right? But with the way life is right now with kids stuff and all of that, it's kind of I know I need to get this work done on that day. So I have a list of that work. So are you saying everything on that item is a to-do and it's too long, or is work the item and then these are the things I need to do during my work time?
There you go. So now we get into planning. So by planning our schedule and required activities, we separate those from our priority list, which are not our scheduled appointments. That doesn't go on our priority list. That's our schedule. And by planning our weekly schedule, putting in our work appointments for parents, that's going to be, do we have to take our kids to their therapy appointments or to their tutoring? Those are not on our priority list. That's our scheduled appointments. Priorities might be in a given day, making phone calls to set up future appointments. That would go on a priority list for the given day. But taking them to those appointments, once we've planned them and put them in our schedule, that comes off our priority list. It's now in our schedule, which is a planned activity.
Okay. So I guess when I'm looking at this, like in how we're, I guess I'm kind of using a to-do list a little bit more broadly, and I need to organize it.
Exactly.
I need to organize more. So when we're looking at, like, say our kids, right, their priority lists for the day, are we doing like homework is one thing, or are we saying each assignment is one thing?
Homework is one thing. But how we plan their homework, see?
Yes.
So assisting our kid with their homework is one thing, but how we organize that, we're going to talk about next week in our organization talk.
Yes.
Right? But planning time to do homework doesn't necessarily go on our priority list because now it's a planned activity. They get home from school at 3:00. They get half an hour or 40 minutes to have a snack, a rest. Maybe they watch a video. And then we have homework time for an hour. That's now a planned activity. Doesn't go on a to-do list. It's on our planned schedule. Everybody knows it's on our planned schedule. It's posted on our planned schedule. So it becomes part of our routine.
That is where we struggle in my house, is I guess our homework time is not planned enough.
See, that's where we organize our planning versus our priorities. Priorities are tasks we have to do. We have to call to make appointments for our kids. We have to write emails to talk to the teacher about something that happened. We have to, work on, maybe today's the day, at Saturdays, we clean our kids' room together, right? Or we support them in cleaning it. Those are priorities. Those are not necessarily scheduled activities. But having our kids' homework time, taking them to their scheduled appointments, those are part of our planning because those becomes part of our regular routine. None of those go on a to-do list because a to-do list is a mishmash and we want to separate them. We want to have a regularly scheduled routine that we have planned. We put in a planner or we write it on our Google Calendar. So we have in our Google Calendar homework from 3:45 until 4:45, and it comes up on our calendar. It comes up on our kids' calendar. We all know, just like they go to school from, 8:30 to 3, then 3:45 to 4:45 is homework time, unless they have a scheduled therapy appointment of some sort or tutoring for some kind. Or they're going to sports practice. They go to sports practice from 3 to 4:30. Then they have their snack. Then they do homework from 5 to 6. And then we have dinner at 6:30. This is a planning opportunity, not a to-do list.
All right.
Do you see the difference?
Maybe what I have, is I have to-do lists underneath my prioritized things, right?
All right, so talk about that.
I have to have a breakdown, right? So if clean the bedroom is the priority, I am going to have a to-do list of 10 steps under that priority of how to clean my room.
That works.
Okay.
See, and that goes into the organizational piece. I don't want to go into that today. We're going to spend a whole hour talking about that next week. But your 10 steps under clean the bedroom is going to be the piece of how do we can't just say to most of our kids or yourself, if you yourself have ADHD, clean the bedroom is too vague. So right. Like this morning with one of my young adult clients, I help body double her. Have you heard that term, body doubling?
Yes, it's the best thing ever.
So what it is that someone who is more organized sits along the person who has ADHD or another disability while they're doing their tasks. And so this morning, my client, who is 22, folded her laundry, sorted it into baskets. She has 3 baskets, dark, colored, and whites, and sorted her laundry into her baskets. And then we cleaned up her floor. We looked at her floor at all the things that didn't have a place to go, and we found a place for all of them to go. And that was a good use of our time together as her coach, because these are tasks that she has trouble completing all on her own. So we talked about some job fairs. We talked about her resume. We talked about her schoolwork, so we did some coaching, but at the same time, she was completing tasks that she has trouble initiating on her own.
Yeah, I use actually a lot of YouTube channels as body doubles. So I will stick on, somebody who's got a 4 or 5 hour stream or listen to a court trial or something that doesn't necessarily require all of my attention, but helps me to keep moving.
I think it's
We've
funny
done on this channel. I know. I watch them all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun.
People can listen to our
done
podcast.
Body double. Yeah, we've done body doubling streams on this channel where we have done it a little more structured, where we'll have a 45-minute work block and then 15 minutes of chatting and then 45 minutes of working. And the idea of the stream is just to provide people that body double and, a place to kind of put their tasks, their priorities, their whatever they're working on that morning written down and a little bit accountable to someone else.
Great.
Something about that helps.
So here we have again, I don't want to get into the to-do list too much or just the body doubling. Let's come back to the prioritizing versus the planning. So once you've prioritized, that is for your one day, you can do it the night before, pick 3 tasks you want to accomplish the next day. And then this is your to-do list. Plan how you're going to accomplish those tasks. Mm-hmm. So for you, cleaning the room, you might need to write down 10 steps. Yeah. So you might have to say, pick everything up off the floor and find a place to put it. Sort your laundry into the laundry baskets. Put up a whitewash when it goes in the dryer, put in your dark wash. You might vacuum the floor after you clear
laundry. We send it out.
Okay, that works too. Whatever works.
It is my life accommodation.
Yes, if you have that many children, it might be much easier to send out your laundry. If your chore for my young adults is to clean your kitchen, we talk about the dishes. We talk about cleaning the counters. We talk about organizing your refrigerator. Mm-hmm. We don't just say clean the kitchen. We break it down into 4 or 5 steps. That's a great to-do list because you've chosen your priority. Now, I want to say one more thing. I'm going to keep saying only pick 3. And like you, people are going to say, but I have so much more to do. And I say, I don't care. Get 3 done and feel great about it. instead of writing down 10 things
Yeah,
and
writing
not
down 15.
getting them done.
Yep.
Pick 3 and do them well. Tomorrow, you have time to do another 3.
Yeah.
Because if you put more on your list and you don't get them done, you're going to have a negative impact on your self-esteem. If you pick 3 and get them done well, you're going to get a boost to your self-esteem. If you're not going to get everything done on your list anyway, why bother writing them down? You're not going to get them all done.
I have to get them down so that they're not in my brain.
Well, every day you get the chance to write 3 more down. The problem is writing them down doesn't mean you're going to accomplish them, and that's going to have a negative impact on your self-esteem because you're going to see things on your list that you didn't do.
Right. And this is kind of where I have a hard time when I'm trying to like plan out, give myself a schedule for a week, right? Because I'll sit down and, you know, I get my new planner and I am going to figure out where all of the things that I need and want to do in a week, right? I want to exercise 3 times. I want to spend time with each kid. I want to, you know, all these things. And then I try and start plugging them in, and there's always too many to fit in.
That's right.
And then I get frustrated and it's impossible. And so I chuck the planner and just keep winging it.
That's right. Which means things don't get done. So that's where the planning comes in. The planning says, I can't have private time with all 3 kids this week. So have 2. Do 2 this week, do 2 next week. It's okay if you can't do it with all 3. Just make sure that you're all, you know, do 1, 2, and the next week you do 3, 1, and the next week you do 2, 3. You'll get time with all your kids. It's just not realistic to do it every week. By keeping the planner, what you do is winging it isn't going to work. No. But by putting some kind of schedule down, this is why planning and prioritization go together.
Right. And the hardest part is that prioritization, right? Because my brain, like most ADHD brains, have a really hard time figuring out. Everything feels like it has the same level of importance.
Yes.
Right? It's the same thing as like if I'm in a crowded room and a bunch of people are talking, every conversation feels like it's coming at the same volume and my brain's not filtering it out. Or my sensory stuff in the day, right? Like I can feel my sock right now and I can feel this part of this t-shirt, and my brain is not figuring out that this is the thing that I wanted to pay attention and to ignore that other thing. So that prioritization piece is a place that we get real stuck.
So let's call it what it is scientifically. So this is called being able to tell the difference between the foreground, what should be right in front of us, and the background, what we can ignore. And this is very difficult for many people with different disabilities. The reason to write down your 3 priorities in advance, that is the night before or first thing in the morning, is we want them to be in the foreground of your brain. And let all the other things you might call priorities, even if they aren't, we want those to go to the back of your brain. I don't have to think about them today. I can think about them a different day. And by writing them down, it helps create pathways in your brain where the information about those 3 priorities will more easily come to the front of your brain. And the ones you have not thought written down, it's more easy to shunt that information to the back of your brain. By writing things down.
That's where I struggle, is because it won't stay at the back of the brain. So that's why I have the dump book. Yeah, and I put it in the dump book, and then I put the dump book away.
If it's not organized by categories or something, information will get lost in your dump book too.
Yes.
Because you're going to be flipping through all the pages.
It's not information.
Where did I write that down?
important, and it's okay if it gets lost, because it's that stuff that should just go, but if it doesn't, it just keeps banging on the door.
Right. So
I got to put it over there, and then it can shut up.
Let's talk about the neuroscience here for just a minute.
Okay.
So one of the things we know about the brain is that all information isn't equal, even though people with ADHD would say, yes, it is in their brains. We know that it's not in reality. And so the things we think about the most, that we prioritize by writing them down, checking what we've written down as our priorities for the day, and sticking to only those priorities, the neurons in our brain that are repeating that priority information will take precedence. We can show through MRIs and CAT scans that the neurons that fire around that prioritized information will become stronger. It's really interesting. So yes, you may get, oh, I'm thinking about cleaning the room. Oh, look, there's a squirrel. I'm thinking about making phone calls. Oh, look, there's a dirty room. That happens. There's no question it happens. But by writing down your priorities and referring to that written down priority regularly throughout the day, you're prioritizing those neural pathways. It does work with practice. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it will come naturally. I'm saying it works with practice.
All right.
So you have to use both skills together. That's why planning and prioritization go together. You write your schedule for the day and the week. We have these appointments. This is the day we clean the room. If you want to plan one-on-one time with your kids and you can't fit in all three because of your work schedule, you write in 2 a week. It's okay if you don't get in all three. You'll get the next one the first part of the following week. It's okay. Life is life. Reality is you can't get in all three. They're not going to die from neglect if you don't get in all three every week. I promise they will not die from neglect.
I know, they grow up so fast, and then they don't want time with you anymore.
Well, they do. My 25-year-old son texts me every single day to say hello.
You have to get to that point. Get them past those teenagers when they're like,
teenagers suck. There's no question about it. But if you put together this solid relationship with them, they will still want to be in touch with you. I promise.
All right, we had a comment here I'm going to bring up because I don't know what this is. Peter Brownstein says, Doc Susan has a great way of using index cards to capture the brain-filling thoughts. Tell us about that, please.
Okay. So Peter and I, his daughter is same age as my son, so they're 25, and we started working together when his daughter was 6 or 7. And so the index cards, instead of your dump book, I often recommend writing one thought on each index card, because what that does is it's easy to categorize them. You can put them in file folders, like one of those multi-folder packages that have like 13 or 20. What are they called? You know the ones I mean, that have multiple pockets, multi-pocket organizers. And if you put one thought on each index card or related thoughts on an index card, you can sort them. Whereas your dump book, everything will get lost because you're not organizing them in any way. And then you want to go back and find the thought. You can't find it because it's 20 pages back. And so by using, getting a pack of 100 or 250 index cards and writing a thought on each index card, you can sort them into the pockets of the multi-pocket organizer. And so then all the cards that are about, therapy can go in one pocket, and all the thoughts that are about cleaning house, all the thoughts go about homework, go into another pocket. And this way you can go straight to all the thoughts you had about something, periodically sort them. The ones you've taken care of, you can discard. The The ones that are no longer relevant, you can discard. And that way you have a really cool way to organize your thoughts.
I like it. Thank you for that. If
Thank
there's any
you.
other questions, if you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat.
Now, if you're not a handwritten person, you can do the same thing by using a Google Doc that you list your categories. You can do the same thing in the Notes app on your phone if you prefer to type on your phone. And it's, we always have our phones with us, and you can use your Notes app to get, something that you always have with you if you don't want to. But some people still prefer pencil and paper, and index cards work great for that. So I want to go back to the planning piece again. So one way is to use these index cards. The planning piece, again, whether you use a paper planner or you're using Google Calendar, color code. Color code, yes. Color code, color code. I am
Which is
so
great
big
because
on color coding.
Used for all of us ADHDers who love stationery and pens and all the different colors, to use all the different colors.
All the different colors. I would color code your children, for example. So
yes.
Put one kid's stuff in all one color. Put another kid's stuff in a different color. I like a big calendar on the wall for our appointments. And I have my name, my husband's name, my kids' names, all in different colors. So I don't have to worry about tracking which column I'm looking at. I know what colors we're in, right? Color coding is critical.
Yes.
If you do it in Google Calendar, you can color code each person. So you can easily look at your Google Calendar, see your appointments and each of your kids' appointments. So it's really important, we said, put in the homework time, put in the sports practices, put in the therapy appointments. This just helps you see where you need to be and when. Yeah. And there are there's an app called Cozy, which is a family planning.
Oh, yeah, I've used that one for a while.
Lots of people speak highly of it. There are newer ones. You can just Google best family planning app. The newest ones will come up. There are some that are better for Apple, some that are better if you're all on Android. Use them, because winging it
and
is the worst possible thing you can do.
I know, but
no, but
it takes so much work. It's boring. Which is why I have a whole stack of planners, because a new planner has novelty and is interesting and is fun. And so I just build in that I am going to rotate planners frequently. So every time I feel like this planner is getting boring again, I go to my planners pile and I switch it up. And then
that's a super idea. Now there is
I always buy undated planners, because then
I like
I can
undated
just pick up where I was and keep moving, and there's no
absolutely
month worth of unused planner sitting there making me feel bad about myself for not using it.
It's a brilliant idea to change your planner every few months. Get new colors, new designs. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
About every 3 months is where we have kind of a natural switch in our family schedule. We've got beginning of summer, we got the beginning of the school year, then you have the holidays, then you have the new year, right? So there's kind of these natural transition points built into the year where we can all do a reset, and habits might have fallen off, or the schedule is changing, or something's just switching up. So I like to be able to starting over. We're starting with this system now, and those systems just need to be refreshed periodically.
We should plan a session. Maybe we'll push back next week and have a session next week. Let's you and I bring all our sample planners and just share them.
Okay. Do a big planner.
I have at least 10, some for kids, some for parents.
Same.
The one that I use, has a place to write priorities separate from your to-do list. Which is what I like about it. It has a priority section already built in. Not all of them have that. So I want to say one more thing about the planning piece, because as we do, we get off on tangents.
Yep.
I want to keep emphasizing flexibility. So I think your idea of changing planners, brilliant. I've never heard of that before. And what a great idea. I'm going to start recommending it to my clients. But to me, there are certain things you have to be thinking about when you're doing your planning. So like you have 3 kids who are on all different schedules. So a typical planner is only meant for one person.
Right.
You might have to use what we call a family calendar instead, which, like my family calendar, I use the Sandra Boynton one, has room for up to 5 people on it, 5 or 6. And so instead of a regular planner, I use a family calendar where both parents and up to 3 or 4 children can all be listed on the same calendar.
Yeah, we have both. So we have a family Google calendar that has all of the appointments on it. We have a family wall calendar that's in kind of our main space in our
that's where I have mine
area,
too.
so that it's visually available to the kids. My 2 older boys now both have, phones and Apple Watches, so we're working on them having their calendar and giving themselves reminders, but it's a skill that takes time to learn. So we have the family wall calendar, and then I have my own planner.
Good. I think that makes sense. So we have a Google calendar, and my husband, daughter who lives with us, and I invite each other to all mutual events. So if my daughter schedules a doctor appointment for herself, it appears on my calendar, so I know what she's doing. If my husband makes a dentist appointment, he invites me, so I know when he's not going to be in the house.
Right.
So that's an important thing to think about, that if any member of the family is going to an appointment, I might have a need. My daughter doesn't drive. So if she's going somewhere, we need to know so that he and I don't schedule appointments out of the house at the same time, because who's going to take her? We need to know, because then she'll have to take an Uber, but maybe she needs one of us to go with her. We have to mutually invite each other to doctor's appointments so we know who's going to be in the home and who's going to be out of the home. This is a habit.
So you just do that through the Google Calendar?
Yes.
This is a new thing we're trying to figure out, because my oldest son just got his driver's license. He has a car, and so he now has a lot more freedom. I was used to knowing if he was going to be home and if I needed him to watch a sibling while I did something, right?
There is a function.
So we now need to be able to
You want to know if he's not going to be home.
Yeah, and to let him know, hey, I need you to be home for a few hours on this day because I've got to take brother B to a thing and I need you to watch brother C.
Exactly. So there's a function called invite.
A new thing we've got to figure out with him is I have had all of that calendar on my phone, and now having to kind of get him his own and share it that way so that we are aware of each other.
Calendar,
if he needs
a function. Sorry, I keep interrupting. Go ahead. My apologies.
You're good.
So there's a function on Google Calendar called invite. So when you set an appointment, you can invite other people. If you need him to know that you'll be out of the home, you can invite him to the appointment and then just send him a text saying, need you to be home.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That, again, a new problem. He just got his license last week, so it wasn't something that had.
Congratulations.
I was like, we gotta. I have gained about 3 hours a week of my life back with him having his license, so I'm really enjoying it.
So this invite function, whenever my daughter makes an appointment, she invites me and her father, so we know when she has to be at the doctor's. And then we know that we can't use the car or make another doctor's appointment that overlaps because she'll need someone to drive her.
Yeah.
It works really, really well. Super easy to do. You just put in the email address of the person you're inviting, and the Google Calendar will automatically put it in their Google Calendar. Google Calendar also has multiple calendars. You can have work, you can have home, and you can have family. So you can use it to set up these mutual appointments. So all of this goes under planning. I'm keeping track of our time. So planning has to be separate from our to-do list, as we discussed, has to be separate from our priority activities, which are tasks you have to do the day that don't appear on your planned calendar.
Okay.
So you started out by asking me, why are we talking about planning and prioritization together? More questions about that? Is it clarified for you?
No, I just thought it was an interesting topic because you do always see those two together. And while they do go very well hand in hand, sometimes I think they are two separate things. But you can't really talk about planning without prioritization. I think you can talk about prioritization without planning.
You can. You can.
Because it is a separate skill.
Exactly.
That prioritization is a separate skill from the planning. It's a sub-skill, I would say.
I agree. But in fact, I would say it the other way around. I would say the planning is a sub-skill of the prioritization because, again, it's the whole issue of how people are wrongly using to-do lists when they should be using the two skills of planning and prioritization instead.
Yeah.
So people have mistakenly
learning how to prioritize, right? And figure out what actually is the most important thing if these things all feel like they have the same level of importance.
Ding, ding, ding. And prioritization, it could be an easy task. They don't have to all be difficult tasks. Your priority could be wash the dishes because you haven't done it from yesterday. And they're all in the sink.
Because that is a difficult task. I'm sorry. It is not simple.
So, and it can be, I want to review what I said right at the beginning. Prioritization could be a personal, family-related task. It could be a home task. It doesn't have to just be work tasks. You can't fill up all three with work tasks if you have home and personal tasks that also need to be done. And you have to accept doing 3 tasks is sufficient. And there's time tomorrow.
That's where it's hard because some days I don't get anything done. Like it's a day where I'm just like, it's a rest day or my brain's not working or, you know, you're sick or something like that. And then there's days when I'm like super productive and that's that kind of hyper focus kicks in, you know, and go, 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 go. So, but I can't necessarily choose when that's going to happen. It either does or it doesn't.
Right. And so that's why prioritization is so important. So on a slow day, maybe you're going to prioritize, what's a simple task for you, Nicole? Like you said, doing the dishes is a hard task. What's a simple task for you that you might be able to?
Well, there's my daily, like, I've got to get done tasks, right? Like I have to make my kids' lunches in the morning. I have to check and get the emails and texts done for the business and make sure that all the appointments are set up correctly. Like those things that have to be done no matter what.
Those are not prioritizations. That's on your planned schedule.
Right. But doing the work hours is the priority, right? It's get my daily work done.
That's not on your prioritization. That's on your planned schedule.
Sometimes.
No.
It should be, but it doesn't.
That
always...
dirty word. No, should. Should is an ideal utopian thing. If you have a sick day, you have a sick day. Your planned things don't happen. Your prioritization. I had a migraine on Monday. Canceled all my appointments. wasn't going to be able to be coherent enough to make a sentence, much less a therapeutic sentence from my clients, right? That doesn't matter. But this is your plan stuff. I have to do the emails for the clients. I have to make my kids lunch. That doesn't go on the priority list. That's your daily planned work.
This is hard.
It is hard. That's why I asked you.
I know.
It's like seeing my clients is not my priority. That's my daily planned work. My priority might be connecting with potential new clients to make sales calls, as I need to get new clients, right? Doing my social media is a priority, but seeing my daily scheduled clients is not a priority. It's my daily planned work.
Okay.
Think about parents, getting them to school, making lunch, getting them to sit down and do their homework. Those aren't priorities. That's their daily planned work to support their kids. Getting them to sports.
And I guess this is the problem, is because all of those things feel like to-do list things, right? And all of them require my energy, my physical and mental energy, right? So those have the same level of importance, or require the same amount from me as these 3 prioritized things, right?
Those are not your to-do list. Your to-do list is not your daily planned activities.
I know, but it's still like, when you're going, okay, these are just all the things that I do during my planned work or whatever, it is still tasks that have to be done. And so tasks are tasks, whether they're stuff that is part of my planned schedule or whether they're priority, they're all just tasks.
That's true. But what does that have to do with anything? See, I'm trying to get you out of the mindset that a to-do list is the same thing, because a to-do list has optional items on it. And I want to say to you that your planned daily routine, like if you were going to a 9-to-5 job, that's not a to-do list. You have to get out of the house and go to your 9-to-5 job. You wouldn't say going to your 9
to things I have to do during that day are on a to-do list.
Correct. And you would still prioritize.
Yes.
I've worked many 9-to-5 jobs.
But I would still have a long to-do list of like, here's the things that have to get done. And then if I have time, I'm going to go to this next list. And if I don't finish, then those things carry over to the next day.
That's the same category as your planned activity is clean the bedroom, but there are 10 things to do to complete that task.
Yes.
That's the differentiation you're not making. You're treating all your planned activities as a to-do list. I want you to be thinking about it as, I am going from planned activity to planned activity, and then you have a list of tasks to do, not a to-do list. Tasks to complete your planned activity.
Okay.
Now, you can call that a to-do list, but I'm asking you to change the wording until you break the connection between your whole day is a giant to-do list and, oh my God, I'm not going to get it all done, which is how you have been thinking. And I want you to think about it as, I have a planned routine for my day. And then under that
I think is the biggest problem, is the planned routine for my day, because the night before, I can make a plan of how I think the next day is going to go. And then morning comes and I don't want to do it. And I'm still tired. And I'm just going to get back in bed for an hour. And
that's the issue.
The schedule goes out the window. And so I have this little to-do list that's like, well, as long as I get these things done, then
that's where we're going to make 3 priorities, which are manageable and doable. And all you're going to worry about are those 3 things instead of a big to-do list that you throw out the window and wing it and may or may not get anything done. That's the executive functioning piece.
Yeah, it's the motivation. It's not making the plan ahead of time, because ahead of time I can make a plan like the best of them and everything fits and it's all going to be amazing.
It's all
and
in your
so productive. And then the motivation when the time comes to do said plan
I'm going to stop you.
Not there.
I'm going to stop you again.
Okay.
ADHD is not
it's
about
the task
motivation
initiation
and willpower. It's about executive functioning skills. Motivation and willpower have nothing to do with ADHD. Don't use those words
anymore. It's the task initiation. Okay. Sorry.
It's about executive functioning.
Susan scolds me when I talk badly.
Not badly. It's because you're using terms that have nothing to do with ADHD. Because motivation and willpower.
And I think a lot of that comes from being late diagnosed. Right?
You haven't let me finish my thought. Motivation and willpower are personal failings. You say, I'm a bad person because I don't have motivation and willpower. That's not true. You have ADHD, which is entirely different.
Right.
If it was about motivation and willpower and you don't do those things, you could say, I'm a bad person because I don't have motivation and willpower. That's not true. You have a brain that's wired differently.
Yes.
And therefore, we have to use different strategies to help you be on track. Has nothing to do with motivation and willpower. I will not let you put yourself down.
Thank you. It's old language from, being not diagnosed until my late 30s. Right. And that's truly what I believed about myself for all those times is I just can't motivate myself to do it. I should be able to get this done and I can't. And it's really hard to undo that language and that feeling in your brain.
Exactly.
That's the way you've lived for
95%
of it.
Incorrect language. You have plenty of motivation and willpower, plenty of it. You have a brain that's wired differently, that requires different approaches to help
really poor task initiation.
Yes.
That is my
talk we're having today.
Executive dysfunction.
Yes. So these skills we're talking about today, planning and prioritization, are 2 of the many skills that will help you. And next week, we'll talk about organization, more skills that will help you.
Yeah. And organization, we'll talk about this more next week. But most people, when they think of organization, they think of decluttering their house, right?
Right.
That's not the kind of organization we're talking about here.
That
is one thing that can help, but that's not what we're talking about here.
No, not at all.
I don't know. Sometime in the future, maybe a separate stream, because it would maybe be shorter, or maybe we can incorporate it into this, is I should just have you do some live coaching with me and hold me accountable to some things.
If you're up
people see what coaching is like.
If you're up for it, I'd be happy to do that. And if people want to put questions in the chat about things they struggle with, just like this, I'd be so interested if people commented. How many of you who are listening to this live or on replay say to themselves, it's a question of motivation and willpower? Because it's not. It's a question of your neurological wiring due to ADHD. You can't overcome that by motivation and willpower. Has nothing to do with it. All right. One's a psychological issue. That's motivation and willpower. One is a neurological issue about the wiring in your brain. That's ADHD. And the executive functioning skills we've been talking about in our last couple of talks, and that we'll continue talking about over the next 4 weeks, are much more likely to help you. So you can say, I make a schedule and then I throw it out the window. That means we've talked about one skill you need, but we have to continue talking about more skills that will continue to help you.
Yeah. Are there any questions in the chat before we close up? I see Equality is a great community member. Good to see you here. Yes, apparently Charlotte is like, hey, you seem a little stressed.
No,
please. Hi, it's a good girl. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I hope everyone who's listening knows that I'm supporting Nicole, not telling her she's wrong. I'm telling her I want her to build up her self-esteem and self-confidence.
Susan is good to me, and she is a wealth of knowledge, and she's an excellent coach. And when I'm having struggles with myself or with my kids and trying to figure some things out, Susan's the one I call. So tell the people where they can find you if they're looking for some coaching.
My website is drsusanblumberg.com. You can schedule an appointment there, or if you'd like to just schedule a free consult with me, call coachsusan.com.
Awesome. So we'll just wrap up. Next week, we've mentioned we're going to talk about organization, which will be great. I would say I'm better at organization than I am planning and prioritization, but still,
you need all of it.
Still could use some work. And I was going to say something else, and it left my brain because I didn't put it in my dump book.
You need to bring it to our sessions to write ideas in.
I know. I have two. I have my little one and my big one. This one can fit in my pocket, so I take this one everywhere.
With you. It's been a great talk. I think we really covered the skills in depth, and you demonstrated perfectly why they're so important.
And so difficult. And, if you're struggling with this, it's okay. It's really hard. You can see you're not alone in that. You're not broken. I say it all the time. You're not broken. You're not alone. And you're doing better than you think you are.
And we're so happy you're part of this community, getting help.
Yes. Thank you for being here. If you're on replay crew, put your questions and comments in. Please do the YouTube things, like the stream, share with a friend, all that stuff, so that YouTube shows people when we're on. Hit the notification button if you want to know. We are always slow down, Nicole, on Tuesdays at 1:00 Mountain Standard Time. But I will be adding some additional streams to my weekly schedule. Sometimes they will be more scheduled. Sometimes they will be more, oh, look, I have an hour, I'm going to hop on. So if you want to make sure you don't miss those, hit that notification button so that YouTube tells you when I go live. And at that, I will run the outro, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This video is not a substitute for counseling, psychotherapy, medical, or mental health care. The information and advice shared here should not be used in place of any form of diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Information provided here does not involve diagnosis or treatment of medical or mental or psychological disorders. If you feel the need for professional support, please seek a local professional in your area. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only.